Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the afternoon spotlight stage session. We have to get started because our speakers only have half an hour each. So I would like to present our first speakers of this afternoon, Will Thalheimer, who has been in workplace learning for over 30 years and president for work learning research for 20. He is the author of the award-winning book Performance-Focused Smile Sheets, and also the creator of the LTEM, which is a learning transfer evaluation model. He's also very well known for debunking educational myths. And if you are tweeting about this session, please tag him. He's at Will Work Learn. And without further ado, I would like to present to you Will. Thank you.
Ildiko, thank you very much. And she memorized that. Give her a big round of applause, everybody. Awesome. All right, so this is the Learning Research Quiz Show. We're going to jump right in. In the medical field, they have a principle, first do no harm. And we should probably take a little bit of wisdom from that and make sure that the designs we have are effective and not causing any harm, that we're not wasting money, that we're not doing the wrong things. Another first principle that we ought to have is to do good and to focus on the research and then do some evaluation and improve what we're doing. So we really have these first two principles. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what this quiz show is all about. So just briefly, how I got into this research stuff. Work learning research is my research and consulting practice. Been doing it. We had our 20th anniversary. It's not a 10,000 person consultancy. It's basically me. Actually, that's not true. Just a couple of weeks ago, hired 2 people, so there's 3 of us now. Tried to do from the beginning is to bridge the gap between the research side and the practice side, looking at the scientific refereed journals every year, almost every year. I read over 200 of them, translate those into practical recommendations. What I focus on a lot now is learning evaluation. Okay, so this is going to be a rapid-fire process. I'm going to throw out some questions. I'm going to have you raise your hands. You'll take votes, and I'll tell you what the answers are. You only get like 10 seconds to think of things. There's no time for reflections. Don't ask me questions. We're just going to roll with this. My job is to keep it going fast. If I don't do that, I'm going to get very disappointed in myself. And I might even give myself a yellow card. Does that look like my arm? Yeah. Okay, there's going to be some slides for this. We're going to just go through things quickly, but you might have an interest in diving deeper. And so there's some URLs I'll give you to do that, and I'll show you this URL later as well if your phone is not ready. So the first question number 1. You've got a 1-hour classroom training program just about developed. Then senior management says they want a 90-minute program instead, with 30 minutes added after the first hour. For the last 30 minutes, that's not English. What's will be? Yeah, okay. What's will be the best use of the time? All right, here's your choices. Add additional relevant content you couldn't cover before, review key concepts from the first hour, and ask questions about key concepts from the first hour. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about that. Are you folks here, can you see it over the podium? No. Okay, can I move this a little back further? All right. Okay, thank you very much, yes. All right, we're going to take a vote. How many people say A, add additional relevant content? Okay, let's do a test. Raise your hand if you think you're in Berlin. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right. B, review key concepts from the first hour. Okay. Or add questions about key concepts from the first hour. Okay. So the wrong answer, the worst answer, is the first one. We're going to talk about the best answer in a minute. And the reason this is a problem is sometimes people ask me, Will, what's, in your opinion, what's the one biggest mistake we make in the learning field? And my answer is we teach too much content. Because if we teach too much content, we don't have time to add the learning supports that are necessary. So question 2, suppose this was an e-learning program. What would produce the best long-term remembering? Extra review or extra questions? Your choices are these. Extra review will support better remembering, extra questions without feedback, or extra questions with feedback. And for this one, I'd like you to rank order these from the top choice to the bottom choice. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it. This is a little bit more in depth. You got to rank them. That's harder. I know. Sorry. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. You don't know this about me, but I'm telepathic. And I can tell that most of you think that C is the best choice. Am I right? Ah, I still have it. Okay, so let's get rid of C. All right, let's choose between A and B. How many people think that A is going to be better? Raise your hands. Ooh, about half the audience. And how many people think B is the better choice? Okay. All right, so just a quick question. Who said A? Who said A? All right. Why do you think A is better?
It just feels better to discuss the content more with the people, to give them extra reviews and possibility.
Yeah. And who said B was better? You said B? Oh, okay. This man wants to talk.
Yeah, I noticed he said A, and then I knew then the best answer must be B.
That is great. And you know what? We have a little prize for you. Okay, you know, if you get insulted in here, you get a little prize. And so this is a Power System high protein bar. There you go. All right. So according to the research, extra questions is better. Now, feedback is valuable, of course, but extra questions is better. Let's look at this research. This is retrieval practice. And so this was a famous study from a long time ago, 60 minutes of lecture presentation in a college classroom versus 55 minutes with 5 minutes answering questions where you got no feedback. So you can see asking questions really helps people solidify their knowledge. Here's another one. In fact, this research mimics the question that I asked. So we have extra review. That was choice A. Retrieval practice with no feedback, B. And look at that. You get like double the learning results. And then retrieval practice with feedback is C. So telepathically, you were all correct there. And by the way, I showed you 2 studies, but there's many, many more. I'll just let you read a few. There you go. Let me just, there you go. Can you read those? Okay, there's many studies on that, fundamental practice. And retrieval practice is one of the most important things to support long-term remembering, to help minimize the forgetting curve. And by the way, this is one of my finest moments in PowerPoint. Isn't that cool? Thank you. Okay. Question 3. When should we give learners feedback on quiz questions? Immediately after each question? Immediately after the end of the quiz? After a delay of an hour or more? After a delay of several days or more? You've got a few seconds to think about this. All right. How many people like A? Immediately. How many people like B? Okay. C? And D? Okay, so in some sense, this is a question about delayed feedback. So I think what I'd like to do, without your permission, is to delay your feedback. We'll come back to this one. Hey, there's no sound. I need my sound. You ready? Here we go. Oh, man. Okay, did anybody get that for Twitter? Okay, so there's 6 choices here. That's way too many, so just pick the 2 that are the worst choices. Now get that in your mind. I'm going to give you the answers. Okay, gamification does not have solid research backing, but it's not impossible to research. I'm going to show you some variety of findings. So these are 4 studies. First one, they compared gamification to not gamification, and the learning was equal, the gamification condition to the non-gamification condition, but people liked the gamification more. This study, learning was worse, and the learners liked it less. This study, learning was better on real tasks, but the exam scores were worse. In this one, learning was better, but the engagement was better. So the bottom line is the research is all over the place. But here's the thing. The real important thing is this. The gamification is not a thing. Gamification is many different things. And it's these factors that really make a difference, not gamification per se. And some of these things you know are better than others. Okay, question 5. Ooh, 5A. Looks like you're going to get 5A, B, maybe C, we'll see. If we assumed the learning methods used in an e-learning course and a classroom training course were the same, which would produce the best learning results? E-learning, classroom training, or both would produce equal results. Now, what we mean by learning methods, let's say you gave people a video in the classroom, and you used the same video in e-learning, or you had an animation in e-learning and used the same animation in the classroom. That would be the same learning methods. So which do you think is going to produce, which of these has produced the best results? How many people think e-learning will? Okay. How many people think classroom training will? Okay. How many people think both should be equal? Okay. Those of you, choice C people, you are absolutely correct. When the learning methods are the same, the results are the same. Question 5B. Comparing a typical e-learning course and a typical classroom training course, which will produce the best learning results? Okay. You have your same choices here. Now, typical means that we're no longer trying to equate the learning methods that are in there. We're just picking out, an average one. So I'll give you a little hint here. It's not C. Okay. Ooh, high pressure. Will you change your vote? Because I know some of you are from last time. All right. What do you think? How many people say e-learning? How many people say classroom? Okay, how many people work in classroom training? No, okay, we don't need to do that. The research says e-learning is better. Why is that? Turns out that the reason is when we design e-learning, we're sort of encouraged to use better learning methods. We use more interactivity, we use more realistic practice, that kind of thing. When we have a classroom, we tend to just present. That's our default. So, there you go. I like to use metaphors, so I got the tree root metaphor. So, the trees, the beautiful leaves, that's what we see, but underground, hidden, are the factors that really matter. So, e-learning, classroom training is what we see. Same with gamification, same with micro-learning. All these things are labels that we put on things that may not be what we really should be looking at. And there's a URL if you want to get a definition of microlearning. This is the research study on e-learning versus classroom. You can check that out. Okay, you guys ready for feedback on this question? Okay, I'm not ready to give it though, so let's go on. When designing learning, should we base our learning methods on the preferences of our learners? Our choices are learners, or you only get 2 choices this time, okay? Learners are fairly good judges of their own learning, so we should let them decide on how best to learn. Learners are too often poor judges of their own learning, so we should guide their learning experiences. Now, I know this is a dichotomy, and you probably want to be in the middle, but it's not a choice, okay? So how many people say A, learners are fairly good judges of their own learning? Oh, people on this side. This is really weird. How many people say learners are poor judges? Okay. Research suggests that B is more true. You know, we'd like to trust our learners. They're good people. They want to do their work well. They want to learn to do their work well. But research shows that learners don't always know their own learning. In fact, there's 2 recent meta-analyses or research reviews that show that learners have a lack of knowledge on how learning works. Now what that means, just to be practical about it, is we shouldn't automatically default to sort of a learner-centric curriculum or just letting the learners do what they want. That's not always the best option. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. All right, so we're going to take a step back now. Why do we do research? Well, we do it to make good learning design decisions, to be effective, to get the results we want. But the truth is, there's good research and there's bad research. Let's look at the bad research first. One type of bad research is confirmatory research. So we have a hypothesis that gamification is good. We're a gamification vendor, and we have this hypothesis, and so we go look for research that confirms our hypothesis. And that's what we share, and that's what we look at. We don't look at disconfirming, and that's a big problem, and it's a natural human tendency, so we shouldn't beat ourselves up too much. There's tentative research. One research study never cuts it. If you're a researcher, we talk about replication. We try to repeat with different types of learners, different types of content, et cetera. So it's really valuable to do that. There's also survey research. In our field, there's scientific research, where we have scientists who rigorously control things. And then there's survey research, where we ask people's opinions. This can be valuable to get their opinions, but their opinions could be inaccurate. So just keep that in mind. And then there's just poorly designed research. Now, even if we have good research, we have to take our experience, we have to use that research with our practical wisdom. And then we try things out. We need to evaluate it well to get feedback. All right, question 7 today. Which type of research offers the most critical information for learning design? Research examining learning methods and their outcomes, research on brain-based learning and neuroscience, research based on big data analyses of training results, or we should be doing all of these. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. And here we go. How many people think we should do all of these? Okay, wow. All right, so why should we do all of these?
Because I think then you'll have the full picture.
Full picture. So lots of, okay, great. What other choice C? Big data analyses. Anybody? Nobody? Okay, you guys are small data people? That's good, okay. Oh, I was going to give you some time to think about this, all right? There we go. This is so you can contemplate it a little bit. All right. Research on brain-based learning and neuroscience. And how many people are refusing to answer my questions anymore? Okay. All right. Research examining learning methods and their outcomes. Okay. All right. So this is a question. You might be able to tell from the background here that the question was really, I wanted to focus on neuroscience. And this is some artwork, actually, you can take a look at. It's actual pictures of the brain. So there's a lot of talk about neuroscience in the learning field. But the truth is that neuroscience is really not quite ready. It will be someday, but it's not quite ready to give us unique perspectives. Neuroscience is really about biology, right? And this is a neuroscientist. It looks like a crazy neuroscientist, but this is John Medina. And I saw him in June 2015. He's saying the same thing now, but he says, I don't think brain science has anything to say for business practices. We still don't really know how the brain works. This is a great book, Urban Myths About Learning and Education. In general, there are only 2 real conclusions we can make at present. For the time being, we do not really understand all that much about the brain. More importantly, it is difficult to generalize what we do know into a concrete set of precepts for behavior, never mind devise methods of influencing that behavior. And this is what a neuroscientist said in Psychological Review, one of the top journals in the world. there are no examples of novel and useful suggestions for teaching based on neuroscience thus far. Now, neuroscience is confirming a lot of the behavioral science that we did before, but it has not introduced anything new at this point. In fact, in 2016, it was found out that the software that's used to measure, to do like the functional magnetic resonance imaging had a big bug in it, and so it's worse than we thought. Okay. So, choice A is a good one. Choice B and C, not so good. In the learning field, big data will have some influence, but for the most part, our data is pretty small. So I'm with you on that. There's an article here on neuroscience and learning. Question 8. Are we as learning professionals more susceptible to recommendations if they mention neuroscience or brain science? What do you think? Yes or no? How many people say yes? Yeah, you guys are right. It's a human tendency, we can't help it. Okay, in designing learning, before I asked you about learners' preferences, now I'm asking about their characteristics. In designing learning, should we take learner characteristics into account? Yes, we should provide different learning interactions based on learners' different learning styles. Yes, we should provide multiple types of learning interactions to support all learners. Yes, we should provide different learning interactions based on learners' differing prior knowledge, or we should do all of the above. Okay. I'm going to tell you right off, it's not all of the above. That makes it a little more interesting. How many people think we should do A? Learning styles. How many people think B? Yes. And how many people think C? Okay. So here we go. You said C.
No, I was wrong.
You meant D, yeah. But I said D was not true. So you want it anyway? Okay. You know, for perseverance, we have a special item for you. And if I can find it here. Okay, oh, not that one. Maybe I ate it. This one came all the way from the United States. I think it's still good. Double dark chocolate nut. It's a kind bar, so a little kindness for you. Yeah, very good. All right, so this is really a question about learning styles. And learning styles, it's sort of a hot topic, but learning styles are like kittens on YouTube. Right? They're cute, you know, they make sense, they feel good, they make us warm and fuzzy, but they don't really do that much for, you know, they're not that effective. Turns out that the people have researched this, and these guys did study. We conclude, therefore, that at present there is no adequate evidence base to justify incorporating learning styles assessments into general educational practice. Here's another one. These guys were asked questions. Are learning styles predictions validated by research? No. Several reviews that span decades have evaluated the literature on learning styles. And you can see, whenever there's a date, that's another research review of many other research studies. And each has drawn the conclusion that there is no viable evidence to support the theory. And the good news is that the popular press is now out there putting articles about the learning styles myth, which is good. Okay, question 10. Which of the following statements is true? People remember 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear, all of the above, or none of the above. Okay, I'm going to tell you, it's either all of the above or none of the above. So how many people think it's all of the above? Okay. How many people think it's none of the above? Okay. None of the above is correct. When I first saw this research, I looked at this graph. I said, oh my gosh, look at this. It's real powerful. The journal Cognitive Science is there. It's cited. I went to the journal. I read the article. There was no graph in the article like that. There were no numbers like that in the article. I finally went to the lead author, Dr. Mickey Chi of the University of Pittsburgh, one of the world's leading experts on how expertise develops. And she said this: that's not my graph. That's not my research. And there's other, so notice this. So this is, the bars go up and down, this, okay? And doing is 80%. Well, there's other examples of this one out there. This is learning by doing. This is 75%. They cut it down, but they added another one. The bars go this way. And here's a study. This is Forrester Research, a reputable organization. And this one, they put learning styles and this together beautifully, and they copyrighted it. That's the favorite part. And this was on Wikipedia. It's beautiful, and I took it down. Okay, and there's literally lots of examples of this. They're out there, and these are just the English examples, you know, and they're in many different languages. And this is my favorite one because they added a quote from Confucius to give it more credibility. But look carefully. Confucius says that hearing is better than seeing, but on this side, seeing is better than hearing. So the person really didn't do their due diligence. And in fact, this quote, Confucius never said it. I think it was Oprah or somebody, I don't know. Okay, so a few years ago I created a group of people. We now have over 700 people, debunkers, people who go out and sort of commit to debunking the myths, and we invite you to join us. Okay, people, since I'm doing evaluation, people always want me to focus on it a little bit, so I'm going to ask you one question about this. Just a quick question. Who was the originator of the Kirkpatrick four-level model? Okay, how many people think they know the answer? All right, I'll give you a hint. It's not Kirkpatrick. It's actually Raymond Cassell. And there's a brilliant piece of investigative journalism there. You can read that. And so I sometimes call it the Kirkpatrick-Cassell four-level model. What do you guys think of it? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you like it for some things or not for others? How many people like it? Okay, well, now you're not sure. How many people dislike it? All right, how many people think it's good and bad? How many people never heard of it? Okay. It's the dominant model in the workplace learning field for evaluating learning, but I don't think it's as good as it could be. Here's some research. This is a top-tier scientific journal. They said the Kirkpatrick framework has a number of theoretical and practical shortcomings. Antithetical to nearly 40 years of research on learning leads to a checklist approach, and by ignoring the actual purpose for evaluation, risks providing no information of value to stakeholders. And this was in 2017. Kirkpatrick's framework is not grounded in theory, and the assumptions of the model have been repeatedly disproven over the past 25 years. I've created, along with the help from many others, a new model. You can take a look at that if you're interested. Okay. You want feedback on this one? Go back? Do I get a candy bar or something? Okay. Take a quick picture. Wait a minute. That's no good. Let me get it. Okay, that's better. Okay, so anybody want to change their vote on this one? Most of you said A and B. I remember, and I know who did. Okay. Anybody who said D? Okay, so let me go into the audience and give people, who said D? All right, there you go. All right, you got, all right, no sweets. Yeah, a banana, all right. Who else? I got one more. All right, great. Actually, I got two more. There you go, thank you. Woo. All right, so the research is actually a little interesting here. So this was some research, no quiz, a quiz, but no feedback, immediate feedback, and after test feedback. So a little longer is better. This study showed no feedback, feedback immediately, feedback after 1 day. So this one, immediate, was better. This was not in a top-tier journal, and one of the guys had a company that gave immediate feedback. Feedback immediately, feedback after 2.5 hours, feedback after 1 day, feedback after 4 days. So this longer feedback is delayed feedback is better, but it's complicated. It's really complicated. It's not one or the other. There's a research report if you want to learn more about it. So with that, the big picture summary is research can help us. Myths are ubiquitous out there. Be skeptical. Look deeper than the labels. Look for the learning factors that matter. Learners don't always know. Look to support remembering. Do rigorous evaluation. If you get the slides, you can read those. We do research to be effective, to avoid myths. Myths cost us a lot of money and time, etc. Stop wasting money and time. There's great books out there on debunking, great learning research books, the Debunker Club, and with that, I am done. Thank you very much.